Well, hey, YouTube, it's Petey Two Finger. Earlier today, I had made a video on the topic of Field Trip. Field Trip is a business. It's the first business of its kind in the United States, and they're applying ketamine treatment for depression. Now, ketamine is a dissociative psychedelic drug. So this is something I've read about. I've never taken ketamine. My experience with drugs, as far as my limited reading about this stuff and then my experience with street drugs, I had some really bad experiences with PCP and what's called robo trips. I was I didn't choose to take PCP. I was tricked. And the robo trip thing, that was another experience that it was not on me. Coming out and being like, hey, there's a business and they specialize in ketamine treatment, it makes it, you could assume PD is a guy that loves ketamine. He loves disassociatives. This could not be further from the truth. I hate those drugs. I really do. Now, it could be, and I'm leaning towards this as a reality, that I don't understand ketamine, that it isn't like PCP, because they wouldn't be opening up a business where they would give people drug that would send them to the ninth layer of hell. You know what I mean? Let's get on with it. I'm going to read this. I typed this out, and I'm just going to read it. I read today there's a place called Field Trip doing ketamine treatments in Chicago. Now, this is such crazy news to me in my little warped ears. And I spent a month in jail for ditchweed, which is low-grade marijuana that I picked. And I cooked that down, made brownies out of it. I was self-medicating. I was sick with a gout attack in both of my knees at the time. I suffered chronic gout in my knees for 14 years. Gout in your knees, well, there really is not a word to describe the level of pain. It made me shake, and tears would come, but I wasn't crying. I was more like frozen in pain, ice cold pain. My childhood was not pleasant. I was abused in every sense of that word for many years until I met my wife. My life wasn't much fun, and I have 70 plus scars to prove that fact. That happened on a PCP overdose. I had no idea it was PCP. It was on July 4th, 1988. A few weeks before I discovered the music of the Bears, a group, Adrian Belew, Rob Fetters, this real kind of positive music that went along with a lot of things changing in my life when I met my wife. Before that, I was listening to Pink Floyd and the solo works of the guys in Pink Floyd. Dissociative type drugs tend to really send me straight to hell, but I never came anywhere near ketamine. Now, I believe this business Field Trip, and it's such a tacky name, they are funded by the cannabis industry. They're working on psilocybin therapy. So they're taking their money that they've made with legalized marijuana and they're expanding their business. And the ketamine is legal to treat depression, so they're providing that. And this is supposed to be like a magic bullet for depression. It's supposed to really work, which, if you're suffering depression, is great fucking news. And I think part of the tone, the theme of this is that we need to change the way that we look at this stuff, that it's medicine. It's not a wow, man. It's not some kind of trippy, that's what we need to get away from. This is unbelievably powerful medicine that works. This is not big pharma medicine where they just keep giving it to you and you keep paying through the nose and you have all these other side effects that make you take a different medication that put you in the hospital that lead you to your ultimate demise. This is stuff that fixes you. You don't have to keep taking it for the rest of your life. So, Field Trip, despite their tacky name, they're funded by the cannabis industry. They're working on psilocybin therapy. Psilocybin is the active ingredient in psychedelic mushrooms. So it's a real trip. It's a trip in the PCP is not an LSD. It's not a mushroom experience. It's different. It is psychedelic, but it's completely different. Okay. And the psilocybin is psychedelic mushroom. So this is LSD. This is a traditional drug trip. And they're actually working on decoding a model for operations, which would be how to grow this stuff on a mass scale, harvesting it, or and then instituting it, like having the ultimate set and setting for people, having some trained personnel, having some safety measures, security, having some drugs they can administer, sedative if it starts going south. And I believe what you're going to see next is going to be MDMA therapy for PTSD and couples therapy, I hope. MDMA is also known by its street name as ecstasy. Now, typically, ecstasy is a combination of a bunch of different things. Purely the substance that we're going to be seeing utilized in therapeutic is pure MDMA, which is a wonderful, wonderful chemical. It's a great, great, great drug. And my experience with that is next to nothing. I think I took it twice, but it is incredible. That's the best drug, is MDMA. Best drug that I ever took. Now, of course, I can excel in pretending that I can comprehend the distinction between recreational and medicinal applications, and you can judge me that way. You can look at me and say that I'm just some fiend. I've spent some time learning more about ayahuasca, things like DMT, drugs like STP, DOM, the drug that took Sid Barrett and Peter Green out. By the way, his son, Peter Green's love child, reached out to me. He watched the episode of Acid Casualties that I made. There are 7 of those. I made these episodes when I suffered acute anxiety as a result to testosterone replacement therapy that I didn't ask for. So the bottom dropped out of my reality and I suffered, like, you can't even imagine what I went through in 2016. And when I came up and out of that, that's when I changed my view on mental illness and depression. I thought, gee, what I just went through had nothing to do with what my mom and dad described to me what mental illness was you need to pull your bootstraps up and work harder. The people that are having mental illnesses are faking for attention. This was a chemical thing, a real thing. It had nothing to do with faking it. So that thought process of like, wow, you really can have the bottom drop out on your life and go completely into hell, depression, or whatever you want to call it. This was acute anxiety. And that encouraged me to want to learn more about these people that I had heard about, famous young rock stars who had paid the ultimate price, acid casualties. And what I learned in all those cases, it was never the acid. The acid was a catalyst, but it was always undiagnosed mental illness or a laundry list of other issues. So Peter Green's love child, Liam, this guy had court documents and DNA tests proving his true identity. He claimed that he learned more from my video about his father than his mother ever taught him. Imagine that. Man, I felt great. Thank you, Liam. I wish you nothing but the best in your attempt to try to tell the true story of what happened to your father at the High Fish Commune at the hands of Ushi Obermeyer. Gee, that's a big word. When he was dosed with a next to lethal cocktail of DOM STP. I do not believe he was given LSD. Same thing with Sid Barrett. This type of thing, I suppose I would call it therapeutic psychedelic application, has fascinated me for so many years. But it's tough to get past the stigma of a sweaty, dog-napping, junkie, fiend, and to the reality that there's much here that we do not comprehend. And what that sentence means is, by me talking about this, a lot of people will look at me and think that I'm going to come and steal their dog and put it up in the paper to get reward money so I can go buy my next fix. That I'm just some... And the reality of it is, if you knew the truth about my drug history and you knew, like, how many years it's been of me being sober or not touching anything. So it's a challenge for some people, and that's what we're up against. Now, the idea that real healing medicine can be developed from these substances that sidestep the amusement park aspects of all of this, meaning if we can get back to researching these chemicals and then extract medicine from that you take that doesn't send you on a fucking crazy induced trip. You just take this medicine and it just fucking heals you. That's really what I'm getting at. That's what I'm excited for, is that possibility. So it may be tough to get past the stigma of me being a sweaty dog napping junkie fiend, and to the reality that there is much here that we do not comprehend. The idea that real, actual healing medicine can be developed from these substances that would sidestep the amusement park aspects of all of it is what appeals to me the most, especially DMT. Please understand, I do not play around with this stuff or use it on a regular basis. I enjoy learning about it, and I am hopeful. So you can judge me for having hope for the human race. The natives use this root bark, the DMT root bark, where all the goodies can be found. The DMT is naturally grown in the root bark of the Mimosa hostilis plant. The natives use it for treating burned skin, for sunburn and other spins. Now think about that. You get burned, your skin gets burned, and the natives know you just put this plant, this root bark, you make a powder out of it, and that's what's going to heal you. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't that point to the fact that maybe we need to look at this stuff and try developing medicine from it? So I think about it, and from my personal experience, that I was able to stop taking the SSRI drug Paxil. The only way that I was able to stop taking it was through microdosing DMT for a month. And that just tells me how powerful and what a miracle drug this DMT really is. So I really hope they will run with this medicine. It seems that they won't. It doesn't fit the big pharma model of, we won't sell you any drugs that's a one-time fix. The idea that all of this type of stuff was weaponized by the CIA, as it was. I just watched My Psychedelic Love Story, which is a 90-minute interview with Timothy Leary's lover. And man, there was a lot going on there. CIA. There always is a lot more going on. It pains me to think that the genie was put back in the bottle so prematurely, and how everything was corrupted, abused, how all the research just stopped until Dr. Rick Strassman's work with DMT in the mid-90s. And they found all of the patients were telling the same stories. And this kind of scared them. And they put it on the shelf. So to me, this is proof of something huge. What? I have no idea. And now it's like those doors are opening once again on a much larger scale. It's a great time that we live in. Personally, I have not really played around with anything like that in many, many years. I cleaned up all my bad habits around 2005. Since they legalized weed, I've consumed maybe a half gram in over a year. So that doesn't take away my hope. My hope is that there is hope. Maybe for myself, but more so just for humanity. If we could work out that nasty stuff that sticks with us, find a magic bullet for childhood stuff, we might not even have to worry about challenges of addiction and alcoholism. Of course, the type of medicine and treatments I'm imagining are a very long way off from the type of shotgun approaches that have been implemented up till now. It is very exciting, but please understand, to me, all of this has nothing to do with drunkenness or sobriety or lack thereof. Field Trip is the first commercial business of its kind in the United States. And I realize some sort of magic bullet idea, pills that will cure you from bad memories, pills that will fix you, erase that stuff. Well, that's more than likely a pipe dream. Surely someone is lining their pockets right now as we speak, and surely others are becoming addicted. Now, that's not me. Don't shoot the messenger. I think a huge part of what is missing is we just have no idea. We don't know enough about any of this. The fact that all this was weaponized and set aside may not have been for the benefit of all mankind. Okay, you guys. This is one of those topics that you talk about and then people automatically judge you. You're less of a person if you have played around with that shit. And then there's people who understand. People know what it takes and how brave you have to be to come back to that well. And people that understand that the mighty respect that you must cherish on your path. All the best to you. Hug your pets and peace.